All right. I think we're live. We should be live. Should have the audio. I didn't bring my phone, so I can't check, but hopefully you guys can hear me. Hopefully you guys can see me all right. It's been another busy week. Got a lot to go over today, whether that is new contracts, more dilution, and updates to insider ownership. We're going to talk on the same companies that we spoke about last week. So primarily it's going to be geared towards Shift4, Redwire, and of course, EOS Energy. I'm going to hop over and share the screen here. So we'll start with Shift4's share price. Over the past 5 days, it's up 5.64%. I mentioned it in the last stream, as well as the Patreon, what do you call that, like newsletter that went out on Sunday, that I was planning to buy more Shift4 this week. That didn't happen quite yet. I was looking at my last buys, and my last purchase was right around the current share price. So I'm hoping to see a bit more of a pullback. I was hoping to get it more in like the low 60 range, but maybe that'll come, maybe that won't. I mean, honestly, we'll see what happens too. I might just buy within this range too, because like we went over last week, it's like, I'm more than comfortable buying here. I guess we'll start things off with an update to Shift4. So they had a PR earlier. I think it was on Thursday, give or take, Wednesday. So they have Cincinnati Bengals partner with Shift4 to enhance payment technology at Paycor Stadium. If you go through Shift4's last earnings report, it's just like stadium after stadium, restaurant after restaurant, hotel after hotel. This is completely unsurprising, and it's kind of in parity with the other announcements that we're going to go over today. It's like, this is great, it's good news, but to the degree, not quite sure. For reference, the seating capacity is 65,000 seats, so it's a stadium. So I'm sure that's not bad news by any means for Shift4. There were a few. I joke with the Rocket Lab Weekly guys. No matter how much you prep for these shows, there's always something that comes up last minute. I was just about to go live, check my email, and there's a few notifications that are relevant to today. The first I had a chance to look into. It is a Form 4 from Chief Accounting Officer and Principal Accounting Officer James Whalen. He disposed of 1,438 shares at $71.50. So this is like basically pocketed, we'll call it 100,000. And he decreased his share count by only 2.5%. So not a huge sell here. I haven't had time to put it into a visual yet, but that is kind of what we're looking at. And this is kind of unsurprising. Like, it's not large sells, but it's not the first time that this gentleman has sold in the past. So not a huge amount though. It's not probably just to, afford lifestyle, really, is all that is. That's really it for Shift4. It probably won't be the longest episode. It won't be probably as long as last week's episode. I mean, last week's we were going over 3 different companies' earnings, so there's a lot of news to go through. This week, a little bit less. We could pivot over next to Redwire. Plenty to talk about there. So Redwire ended the week down 17.5% to 5.41. That is, man, that's a rough year they're having, down 67%. Yikes, that's some that takes a lot of work, that kind of a pullback. Brutal. Well, I think that the last episode I think covered Redwire in a fair capacity. Not the best earnings, but not the worst. We're just going to run this in the background, and I'll pause it because we'll go over this together. Redwire posted a Q3 highlights, and I think it does a good job explaining what exactly went on throughout the quarter. And you'll kind of see a recurring theme that we'll touch on as we look forward as well with the updates that were made throughout the week. So yeah, like I said, intentionally no audio here. In Q3, Redwire announced ESA's SkimSat V LEO mission will move forward with Redwire, leveraging their Phantom spacecraft as prime contractor. These are cool. These are those like air-breathing satellites. Very cool. Redwire now leads 2 VLEO prime Oh, it's going too quick. My bad. Yes, the DARPA's Otter for the US and ESA's SkimSat for Europe. It's like, it's one of those things where in my simple brain, I don't know, it makes sense in my mind that they just build one VLEO platform, but they kind of have to build one for US and one for Europe. You know, kind of is what it is. It's unfortunate they can't just share information but yeah. Large space infrastructure. Redwire will supply rollout solar array wings for Axiom's commercial space station, continuing our legacy of powering critical missions. Microgravity development. Redwire Space MD launched 14 new pillboxes to the International Space Station with Bristol Myers Squibb, Butler University, and Purdue University. We're actually going to put a pin in that now, and we're going to actually look at the pillboxes because I think they're at 42 now. Let's take a look. Yeah, so 14 within Q3 and 42 total. I listened to Redwire's call last night. I don't think it was as bad as a call as it's being perceived. It wasn't a great call, and there are still, plenty of red flags, but I think there are certain talking points like the pillbox stuff and the implications that has for Space MD and like to turn it to financials to like royalty payments. I think that's what to look for Redwire in the future. I mean, among other things, right? I think it's easy to like look at the last couple quarters and like bag on Redwire. I actually saw kind of a funny take. Someone is like, basically saying management needs to go. And I'm like, my guy, like they just announced the CFO is stepping down. They just announced, I think 2 members of the board are stepping down and being replaced by 2 other members. I'm like, the shakeup's already taking place. Listening to the new CFO last night too, I'm like, that guy seems, I haven't seen him speak, and I think there's a lot to say for somebody's body language, but he speaks competently anyways. I don't know. I have a good vibe. He seems to know the business well, at very least. Yeah. Yeah, this microgravity stuff is so cool. Oh, there it is right there. 42 pillboxes flown, 35 molecules studied, advancing pharmaceutical research and development in orbit. Combat proven UAS. Redwire delivered Stalker. Again, it doesn't say how many, so it's one of those things you just shrug away. But like, yeah, they delivered a Stalker, or I don't know if this is 2 or 200 Stalker UAS for the U.S. Army's long-range reconnaissance prototype phase, and it also delivered Penguin UAS to allied countries, including Ukraine. Yeah, there's no audio, by the way. There's like music playing, but I'm not sure if it's like it would put us at risk of like a takedown notice or whatever. So I don't know the origin of the music, so we'll just play it safe. There's not any other sound going with it. In Q3, we announced our partnership with Red Cat to integrate their Black Widow small UAS on Stalker to support U.S. Army echelon missions. It's another one of those ones. Like, what's the brevity of this contract? TBD. For sensors and payloads, Redwire also delivered Octopus gimbals to allied countries, reinforcing our leadership in UAS sensor technology. We're executing with precision, delivering for our customers, and growing with purpose. Transforming how humanity explores, connects, and protects from the skies above to the stars beyond. Redwire. So, cool. Hop back over there. Yeah, I mean, not the best week for Redwire, not the best year for Redwire in terms of share price, but behind the scenes, I think they just continue to kind of churn, and it's not always going to be pretty, but we'll see what happens. I'm wondering which one. We'll go with this one. So over the week, we've got our PR for the that $250 million at the market offering. It's not great. Well, I mean, it's not surprising, but it's also like it is what it is. But we'll try to spin this positively, try to see the silver lining, because I think there is some to glean here. Actually, before we get there, what I'm taking away from this, because again, it's like when I build the valuation models, it's always to be very conservative along the way. And this fine print, I don't know if you guys can see this very well. And you know, I'm not even going to bother reading it because it is just like a bunch of like legal speak, really. To translate it to numbers, though, is what we're looking at, or what we can expect, is for the share count to increase. Actually, you know what? It's also right here. We can expect the share count to increase. And I want to be clear before I bring this up. It shows the uptick in Q4, but this is just done to illustrate what the share count could look like, or probably will look like, after all the dilution. Because again, this isn't just the $250 million at the market offering. All this fine print are like, like incentive plans and exercisable options, that sort of a thing. So when you factor all that in and look at it as though it would be all recognized within Q4, I mean, this is the dilution, the share count uptick from the Edge Autonomy acquisition. And this is what is yet to come. So it's not like I posted on the side, like the $950 million market cap with a price to sales of 2.5 is appetizing until you factor in another 60% dilution. Like, not great. But again, like I said, we'll try to find the silver lining here. If we scroll down to and we'll look in the Q4 column, hopefully you guys can see that well enough. But if you take the current share price, factor in all the dilution, and that's all the dilution, right? Like that big uptick, that's probably going to take place, like at the market, that's probably going to take place probably all in Q4, maybe Q1 at the latest, but the rest of it will be throughout 2026, 2027. But if you were to assume all of that dilution happens in Q4, and you take the current share price, do all the math behind the scenes, whatever, market cap is looking to be at like 1.3, 1.4 billion. Enterprise value, 1.25. And the current share price is 3.3. Now, to compare that with like tech indices, that is par for the course, right? Now, of course, that is heavily related to revenue growth rate, and of course, there's other ways to look at this too, right? Price to sales is just the top line. Like if we are to look at margins, for example, though, kind of what we touched on last time, the margins, actually, maybe we should just look. Now we'll just use the raw data. There are the charts down below, but I don't know if those are updated for the forward values. But like the Redwire's kind of historic average for gross margin, you can see, we'll call it 2023 is 25%. 2024, we're looking 15%. There's a bit of a downturn in Q4. Oh, that would be the Hera acquisition too, as well. So I guarantee that's like the acquisition fees and stuff drug that down, similar to what happened in Q2 of 2025 with the Edge Autonomy acquisition. You can see that Q3 is a lot better, and that Q4 is going to be even better yet. So this will probably be their baseline going forward, is this 25%. Now, if you take the data that was presented, the financial, where are we? All the finances that were distributed in April, I think it was, we can get a pretty good idea year over year what those two companies would look like in terms of like gross margins and stuff. We'll just kind of skim past this, but essentially that it does line up with the historic values, the guidance for the forward values. So we're looking at 25 to 30% gross margins going forward, and then everything past there kind of tracks as well as you might expect. The um, the information is also available like in quarterly if you know where to look. But even that, I've spent a bit of the week trying to like parse this together to try to calculate the net income, what it would look like with or without, and it's just too convoluted trying to get like the Q1 information and stuff. But yeah, a lot to look at in those earnings reports. Just gonna hop over to the comments real quick. Still buying Redwire. Nice. CEO buying stock. Yes, sir. We're gonna get into that in just a minute here. That is some definite silver lining. Actually, let's hop into that now because we've gone through the dilution and whatnot. We've kind of gone through the, I guess, the current valuation, price of sales of 3, assuming all that dilution. Oh, and adjusted EBITDA margins as well. I think those are going to improve quite a bit. Where are we? Balance sheet, EBITDA. Yeah, so again, you look in the past, Redwire has been adjusted EBITDA profitable or positive, I should say, in the past. And then again, when they took on Hera, took a downturn, got better, and took on Edge. Now it's improved. This is probably conservative. I'm wondering if they might even eke out a adjusted EBITDA positive Q4. But we'll see. Because like I think at this point, all the major acquisition costs are out of the way now. There are some overhang. What are they called? Incentive units. Yeah, you can see there's a big upturn for cost. Okay, so cost of sales. This one here. So this is all Edge Autonomy. It's like 29 million worth of Edge Autonomy incentive units, and there's another 7 million here, and then they still have the rest of the, I guess, tranche 2 and tranche 3. They're calling it, to be recognized over the next, I think, 1.7 years. So like the 2-year period after the acquisition took place. So most of the fees are out of the way is a quick way of saying what I've said the long way. All right, let's get into those insider purchases. And yeah, like I said, whoops, I didn't mean to click on that, my bad. There was a couple of new emails that I got as well. So this isn't all going to be perfectly updated, but through the week, we had Chairman and CEO Peter Canito. Actually, is there? We can do it this way. Perfect. Cool. All right, so we had the Chairman and CEO Peter Canito. He bought $200,000 worth of Redwire shares on November 10th, and another $50,000 on November 12th. And then on, I think it was November 11th, we had the EVP, GC, and Secretary Aaron Futch buy $25,000 worth. So if you are looking at in terms of like a percentage increase, I think it equals 6% for both. Yeah. Oh, 6% for Michael, or Michael's his middle name. Aaron, Michael, Mr. Futch. 6% increase for that gentleman and 8% for Peter. And then on top of that, I did see that there were a couple new Form 4s, meaning more insider purchases. So always good to see that. And I think that is a much needed signal in a sea of noise. Hold on. Actually, are these all from today? I only saw 4 in my email, but let's check these out. Whoops, not in a new window. Yeah, it's I mean, great to see. They're all buying in tandem, it seems. So this is Aaron Futch, 6.1. You know what we're going to do? We're going to bring this one over. Oh, maybe. Oh, it's in full screen mode, maybe. Maybe not. And we'll bring Redwire over. Cool. It's not the easiest thing to track all of these, as you can see. Okay, so we had row. Okay, it's not going smaller for some reason. So we had 70 okay, so this is the one that we have already. That's a difference of, okay, so that one's been factored in. Good. This one, I think this is Peter again. So double check 535. Yep. Okay, so those are the ones that we do know of. And then we have this new one. Okay, so Chris Edmonds, Chief Accounting Officer, soon to be CFO as of December 1st. He is acquiring 5,500 shares at the current range. So he's bringing his share count to 107,000. I'll do like a proper post after this. I'll calculate the amounts and stuff, the share count increase, because I'm sure that's not too exciting for you guys to go through, but we'll see the other Form 4 as well. Okay, Aaron Futch again. He acquired, oh, what is this? Why is that like, that is, that is odd. So he acquired 18,000 shares and then I don't know why it's separated like that. But I mean, that's great to see. Cool. So a lot of buying at Redwire. And yeah, I think this is one of those cases where, I mean, if the management's buying, I'm going to buy. I added a little bit of Redwire today. Not a lot. And I want to be clear with Redwire. Like it's not a large, like a very large position. It's like, I think 5 to 15% at any given time. Right now, it's a bit on the low end because of the wild share price lack of appreciation over the past, well, while. But yeah, I did buy. Actually, let's go back a little bit further too, and I can kind of go through the brief history of Redwire and why I don't feel much of anything when I buy Redwire at this point. In August, I think is when I first started buying, August 2024. I bought a bunch through to September and then ended up trimming through September. So yeah, like I bought around here, $6 range, sold at $18 average, we'll call it. There's two sells, 18 and 21. Then I bought again between 12, where is that? March. Yeah, I bought again at 13 and 8, sold again at 22, and then bought a block at 8, and then again at 550 here. So what I mean when I say I'm not like worried about Redwire stock is like I've kind of made money on Redwire already, and it's almost like house money at this point. I've been just fortunate with the, and I want to be clear, I'm not like saying I'm like some timing guru. It never works out like that. But it's like the way that I look at that is like, you know, if Redwire like continues to bomb from here, I've still made money on Redwire because I've trimmed. And like I know some people are very against trimming. I'm not. I think it's you know, and I don't want to say like anybody's doing anything wrong. Everybody has their own like path to get to the same destination that we're all trying to get to. But yeah, I did end up adding back. I think it was 25% of the dollar amount of what I trimmed last, if that makes sense. So I'm kind of like playing with house money at this point. And I would plan to add the remaining 25% of that trim, you know, probably low fives, maybe if, I don't know if we'll hit 4, you know, wouldn't surprise me. Nothing would surprise me, but seeing all these insider buys, like I said, I think that's the signal through the noise. Moving on from the insider ownership, we've got a couple new contracts. Redwire announces contract to deliver uncrewed aerial systems to Croatian border patrol. So Redwire has been contracted to deliver its Penguin C VTOL uncrewed aerial system and Octopus gimbal camera payloads to the Croatian border patrol, excuse me. Funded under the European Border and Coast Guard Agency, which supports countries within the European Union in the management of external borders and the fight against cross-border crime, this contract will supply Croatia with the means to monitor their borders and respond to potential threats or other unlawful activities. Building on successful border patrol deployments around the globe, Edge Autonomy has provided multiple UAS solutions that have proven especially effective in austere environments. No mention of contract value, you know, similar to the Shift4 thing, similar to like most, if not all of Redwire's news. It's like cool, but to what degree? I'm not sure. Additionally, we have another new contract. Redwire announces partnership between Edge Autonomy and Eurolink Systems to provide UAS to the Italian defense sector. This collaboration includes the promotion and support of Edge Autonomy's uncrewed air systems portfolio in Italy, featuring the Stalker Block 30 and Block 40 UAS and Penguin C VTOL and Mark II. These systems are designed for long endurance, long-range missions, rapid deployment, and a modular open systems approach to integration for critical intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance requirements. So similarly as the last couple of contracts that we've gone over, no mention of contract value. One indicator that is, looking in the rear view, but it's still a decent indicator, is the backlog or bookings from Q3. In the case of Redwire, you can see, their pipeline continues to increase over time. If we look back to like 2023, where it's sitting at 3.5 billion. As of current, we're looking at closer to 10. Excuse me. Now, bids submitted, that's seen a huge uptick, and this is almost entirely Edge Autonomy, but it still continues to trend north either way, with or without them. Contracts awarded in Q3. This was an unusually high quarter. 100, we'll just call it 130 million. Typically we've seen 90, 65, 36, 44. We do have another quarter back here that was north of 100, but 35, 178, 46. So all this to say is the last quarter was a bit of an outlier. And that's also during this period where they are talking about the contracts being delayed from the government shutdown. Now, that is recently, I guess, remediated or sorted itself out. So I guess those contracts, the ones that were supposed to be awarded in Q4, I guess we might still see those in Q4 or maybe in 2026 now. I'm not sure. Organic backlog, we can actually scroll down. It is improving, but it's, I guess there's two ways to look at this. We'll start with the backlog. You can see it's, trending in the right direction. We'll give them that for sure. But then if you look to the bids to contracts, it's not great. But, and granted, the bids probably take 6 months to maybe a year, maybe 2 years before going through. So you think that this big uptick right here in bids submitted would start to show in terms of contracts awarded, even back here, but that's not what we're seeing yet. And I know that if you're trying to look at the contracts awarded, it's so minuscule in contrast to bids submitted. What we can do is we'll just zoom that in really quick. No, I'm missing a 0. So if we do zoom in, it's okay, but it's still kind of more or less floundering. Not the greatest, but it's an improvement over the last few quarters anyways. Yeah, if you guys have any questions along the way, feel free to fire away. Halil says, I think that we are going to see those contracts mostly in Q1 2026. I agree. I listened to that call again last night, and they all but said that. Now, my major criticism of this past earnings call, and I'm happy to be wrong about this, but it's the revenue guidance downwards and their whole commentary around it. And it wasn't exclusively because of the government shutdown, but they mentioned that in terms of why the 2025 guidance was revised downwards. But if you look at the amount that it was revised downwards, I have a hard time wrapping my head around that. Unless when a number of space, and I won't say all, but I know a few of them, like Rocket Lab in particular, when they get a contract, depending which category they're in, the space systems, they can recognize that like milestones along the way. Like Electron, for example, they take in that revenue, but it's not recognized until the launch actually takes place. But the space systems, however, that's recognized over time. And I'm wondering if when these contracts are awarded, a lot of the time there will be like a 10, I think in the case of Redwire, a 10% deposit that needs to be made. And I'm not sure about Redwire's recognition schedule because they've never published it. But I'm wondering if that's what they might have been expecting. But the big asterisk beside that is like if this was exclusively the government contracts being pushed into 2026 is causing this $150 million revision to guidance, that would sort of imply that they're expecting $1.5 billion worth of contracts in Q4. And, they mention, and granted, every company is mentioning by name now Golden Dome, but I am wondering, I'm like, is there like, if I guess if we're sitting here in the second half of 2026 and Redwire doesn't have a massive Golden Dome contract or any massive contract, it's going to be like very concerning. There's a lot of ambulance chasers, like a lot of folks that like Rocket Lab just cleared up like this whole legal issue with folks that are like, oh, you lied about the Neutron schedule, like, and that was the original one. It's kind of funny that original delay. There's like, legal action taken after that because Rocket Lab lied, and it was like I think in the same week that past one got cleared up that they announced that it's actually being pushed further. So I'm sure you're going to get a lot more ambulance chasers doing the same thing again of like, oh, but you're lying or whatever. But it's like, delays happen. That's okay. But in the case of Redwire, like either in my mind, either Redwire has a massive amount of contracts that are about to be delegated or they're lying. Like that's kind of where I'm at with them. Or just not being accountable. I don't know. But like that revision downwards, it's too big to, I don't know, not be of weight. So we'll see what happens with that. Okay, I think from there we'll move on to EOS. We'll start with the share price there too. Energy. Be interesting to see how this one was doing. Wow, all the way down to 1380, down 9% on the day. There's actually one thing I wanted to bring in here from the other tab. I saw this posted in the EOS Discord earlier today by Roger. He mentioned, you all know what's likely adding to pressure, right? Have you looked at the EOS warrant expiration date? It's November 16th. Today is the last day to execute on them before they expire worthless for professional firms. From my understanding, from some education from others, there are firms that specifically buy and execute warrants. So the EOS W were 28 cents the summer, and they hit 8.3 at their peak in the summer. So there's a chance that whoever is executing is immediately selling these as well. At $2.60 warrants plus 11.5, that equals 14.1. So if they bought those and were immediately executing them, when we are in the $14 to $15 range today, they made profit. So I'm under the impression that that's what this might have been. So shout out to Roger for pointing that out. That is a very astute observation. If you guys are interested in joining the conversation, the invite to the Discord channel is in the description below. All right, so we have passed that. Got a Form 3 from Chief Administration Officer. Actually, hold on. We'll bring that one up. So we have a Form 3 from Chief Administration Officer, and I'm a little unclear on what the exact title is, and you'll see why in a minute. I mean, it's mentioned, Chief Administration Officer here, but then they have a post from just a couple of days ago where she is mentioned to be the Chief Human Resources Officer. So I'm not sure if that's like she's pivoting between the two or what exactly is going on. Actually, I saw on LinkedIn as well, or we actually have that link as well. On LinkedIn as well, it mentions that she is the Chief Human Resources Officer. So I don't know. Little unclear what her position is exactly, but either way, a Form 3 was filed. This is a Form 3 is kind of like a Form 4 in that it shows like ownership. Form 3s are usually the introductory Form 4, if you will. More like I don't know how to explain it better than that. It's like the first when an insider is first either like about to be awarded or is like at that C-suite level, they have to identify the shares that they hold, and that's what you're seeing here in this Form 3. So Form 3 is kind of like Form 4's little brother, so to speak. Either way, we can bring that into over here. You'll see it's a very small amount, but it's, you know, it's worth noting anyway. And this is, it doesn't mention that there's any sort of purchase or anything. It just mentions that she has direct ownership. So we'll track that going forward and see what there is to see. Okay, cool. Let's get into EOS's news, because this is big. There's no way to put it. No other way to put it. Bimergent Energy and EOS Energy forged strategic partnership to accelerate U.S. battery storage projects. This agreement builds on Bimergent's recent $250 million project-level capital commitment, a portion of which has already been funded in cash, anchored by a landmark $200 million project-level equity commitment. With a pipeline totaling nearly 8 gigawatt hours across major U.S. markets, including ERCOT, MISO, WEC, and PJM, Bimergent is positioned to deliver critical storage capacity that will strengthen grid reliability and support energy security. Under the terms of the JDA, both companies will collaborate on project design, procurement, and financing strategies, leveraging their combined strengths to reduce cost, mitigate risks, and accelerate timelines. The initial focus of the partnership will be on several late-stage ERCOT projects totaling 1 gigawatt hours, which are currently being prepared for project financing. EOS will also support Bimergent in securing additional development capital to accelerate progress across its broader portfolio. So, keeping in with today's theme, not sure how large this partnership is in terms of like what it could translate to revenue for EOS, but we do have the mention of 8 gigawatt hours across US markets, and then several late-stage projects at 1 gigawatt hours. So how much of that ends up being battery energy storage, aka EOS, is TBD, but it's yeah, very a step in the right direction, to say the least. And I think final piece of news here. Yeah. This is a put on a tinfoil hat for this one, but this is like Rocket Lab's partnership with Amazon. It's like if there are enough vectors pointing in the same direction, maybe it's safe to assume something's going on. So the headline: development at Green Data Center campus gets preliminary okay. There's a few points that I would like to cherry pick. Members of the Planning Commission asked about issues including light generation and sound, which had been brought up by residents of the small village of Alicia. So to kind of rewind, they're talking about a big project that is coming to this area. Now, Alicia, which is adjacent to the mine site. Spiegelmeier, hopefully how you pronounce that, said the noise at the fence level from the power plants would be 55 decibels. According to the Hearing Health Foundation, sounds at or below 70 decibels are considered safe. The foundation likened 55 decibels as being between normal noise in a room and the sound of background music. We're going to take a quick pause there because I would like to point out that EOS's Z3 batteries, they operate at 50 to 60 decibels. So that's rhymes with 50. Versus the 70 to 92 decibels for competitors. Now, this is the difference between an everyday conversation versus the sound of a blender. There's no need for HVAC, and that makes EOS's systems functionally silent. So when I see, and this is just one of those vectors, right? So just right away, it's like, okay, that 55 decibel talking point, okay, that's like, sure, maybe. Let's keep reading. Members of the Planning Commission also asked about the 15 acres of battery storage included in the conceptual plan and the potential for fire hazard. IEP civil engineer and design manager Josh Schroeder said the energy storage batteries are non-lithium, creating minimal chance of fires. I think that's as far as we need to read. I mean, it's one of those things, like, sure, we could be talking about STEM with the non-lithium, but I mean, just those two mentions of the very particular decibel range, as well as them being non-lithium and not having like that fire risk, that to me sounds like EOS, right? Like, I mean, it's got to be. And that 15 acres of battery storage, we heard that on the Q3 call. 15 acres is equivalent to 1 gigawatt hour. So, and keep in mind, that's with a particular, like, how do you say that? Like architecture, like the batteries can actually be like stacked like on top of one another, basically. So it's not for sure that it's going to be the full 1 gigawatt hours, but just to kind of point us in that direction. If I can find what I'm looking for, sheet 3. Yeah, the EOS sheet is a mess, but the other ones are much more tidy. I'm sure it's sheet 3. It's like I'm missing a whole section here. Okay, maybe I shouldn't be doing this live anyway. Oh, I see what happened. Okay, here we go. Okay, so 15, have a little section hidden here. Bring that up. So the simple math here is that if 1 gigawatt hours equals 250 million, as you can see here, how I'm arriving at that range, then if we have 15, is that 4 billion, like $3.75 billion in potential contracts coming for EOS? I'd love to find out. And if you're looking at like just the all the potential contracts coming down the line, coming down the pipeline, and a lot of these sound quite certain, it's like that lines being made every 90 days is going to need to happen. So we're going to need to execute on that. Yeah, man, it's I can't say enough nice things about EOS. Beautiful company, executing as they need to be. I think that's it for this week. If you guys are interested in the valuation models, the Shift4 model was just published. Rocket Lab and Firefly was just published this morning. Redwire was mentioned to be published last week. I haven't quite got to that yet because I got hung up on that that pro forma translation or whatever, but that'll be published in the next day or two. The EOS one isn't published quite yet, but if you guys are interested and are on the Patreon, feel free to reach out. I had a couple gentlemen reach out already, and that's now in their hands. Like I mentioned, it's like all like the very loose note keeping and stuff. It's not tight and polished. Like, for example, the Shift4, it's like, well, tight and polished, right? So if you're interested in those, feel free to head over to the Patreon, subscribe and like if you haven't already. And thank you guys for your time. I really appreciate you being here, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Have an awesome day.